Test, test. Thank you. Well, it's a small but mighty crowd here tonight. Thank you for all coming. Hope more will come in because I know the black flies are still hungry and the temperature's going to drop. So a lot of people will have to find refuge somewhere. This is a good place, the church. So welcome everybody. My name is Gordon Stees. I'm currently the chair up until about 8:30 tonight. And a new board comes in. We do have internet and Wi-Fi connection if Robert is at the back. And I thank you very much, Robert, for getting us all set up for today. And we're also live streaming. And Darren, I thank you for making the coffee and getting everything ready out there. That's great. Thank you very much. So if you want coffee and tea and water and sweets and sandwiches will be coming up shortly as the meeting progresses. And I want to thank St. Timothy for offering to make the sandwiches and snacks and so on for this evening as well. Now we have behind me, and I'm hiding them, I apologize for that, but we have our group that's going to perform a song written by Sheila Lamplugh this evening. And before we go too far in the meeting, I want to acknowledge the use of the land. And we acknowledge that we are a Mi'kmaq, the ancestral unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of the lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Maliseet titles and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. So I'm now going to leave the stage and allow Sheila and her group. And do you want to introduce your group as well?
Yes. Sharon Reski and Rosalind Amala. And we are down at St. Timothy's Sunday nights, 7 o'clock. Okay.
The SS Atlantic sailed upon the sea, left Liverpool for New York in 1873. They hit a rock near Halifax, headed in for coal. On April 1st, the rocky coast, by 50 lives it's told.
Now listen up, you'll want to hear. I've got a tale to tell of a voyage full of hope, but ended up in hell.
They sailed away from all they knew with dreams of what could be. They settled in a foreign land of opportunity.
The current pushed them off their course. They sailed too close that night. The crew was unaware of the dangers of their plight.
They hit full steam upon the rocks, the Nova Scotia shore. The White Star ship Atlantic would sail the seas no more.
The ship was torn, cast on its side. The lifeboats swept away. People trapped below the decks that fateful All Fool's Day.
Heroic deeds by fisher folk, so many tried to save. The ocean swept 550 souls to a briny grave.
The Clancy family heard the crash out across the bay. With hope and dread within their hearts, they rushed to water's edge.
The angry seas ignored the pleas, so many desperate cries. Lines made fast to a rock in hopes some would survive. The SS Atlantic that sailed upon the sea, left Liverpool for New York in 1873. They hit a rock near Halifax, heading in for coal. On April 1st, the rocky coast, 550 lives its toll.
The people from the villages ran out to heed the call. They rescued, fed, they sheltered them. With love they gave their all.
These were the first responders in 1873. They warned the cold and injured from perils on the sea.
Or 900 people sailed on the ship that day. So many families met their doom while sleeping where they lay.
One young boy alone survived, 400 cried in vain. In fear and sadness, death and loss, pray time can numb the pain.
From Lower Prospect, Terrence Bay, Prospect and Pennant too, brave heroes who will not forget, 400 were rescued.
So let us now pay tribute in prayer and homage be,
Thanks to those kin so long ago
who lived beside the sea.
Remember well all travelers who land here on our shores. We offer care where there's a need. We open up our doors.
So if you're sailing on the sea like seagulls flying high, our caring seafoam watch for those in need as they pass by. The SS Atlantic that sailed upon the sea left Liverpool for New York in 1873. They hit a rock near Halifax, heading in for coal. On April 1st, the rocky coast, 550 lives its toll. On April 1st, the rocky coast, 550 lives its toll.
Love that song. I heard it first in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Last year. Okay, at the front door, there was a voting card and a copy of the budget and also the agenda. And I hope everyone has a copy of that. At the back of the room by the coffee cups, where the coffee and tea is, there's the last year's minutes. It's 13 pages, and I didn't think we needed that many copies of the last year's minutes. So I have a proposed agenda. And are there any additions to the agenda that you feel you want to bring to our attention this evening? Thank you very much, ladies. Have a great evening. Okay, seeing nobody's concern here, I'd ask for a motion to receive the minutes of 2023 or 2 as distributed by Facebook. And we have a mover, and we need a seconder. Hamish? Okay. And Shirley. Shirley and Seamus. Okay, having read the minutes from last year, any errors or omissions? None. Ask for those in favor, signify by saying aye or use your card. Aye, okay. Against? Carried. Well, I have a short report from my point of view as chair. I started my career with the SS Atlantic last September in a bit of a rush, since I knew nothing about it other than visiting the center and paying my $10 to become a member. I remind people to do that this year too. And then it began, and the next thing I know, a group of people said, "You should be the chair." And I guess it's history now. So I took over from Lady Reverend Margaret Sagar, and she put together a phenomenal few years working towards the 150 anniversary and created a tremendous number of grants and direction, and I just sort of fell in to find out what are all these legacy projects, what are the digital museum, and so on and so on and so on. And eventually I said, "Do you know what? We're going way too fast for our little group of people who are working on the board." And I said, we need to take it and put things in place. And thankfully, the directors on the board with me said, "We're going to help you," because I needed a lot of help. So before I put my foot in my mouth too many times throughout the year, they were there to guide me and support me and tell me, "You should be doing this, you should be doing that." And I really appreciate my fellow board people for that. That was very helpful in my learning how the SS Atlantic operates and what are all the very things going on in the Terrence Bay and Prospect and Lower Prospect areas. It's really great, so I appreciate that. Well, there are some challenges, as any volunteer organization finds out pretty quickly. And one is, I feel that we're missing out on reconnecting with our communities that we are in the midst of at the Terrence Bay Center. So I think next year I'm hoping to start taking a look at some ways of reconnecting with people in all the communities and welcoming them and finding opportunities or events where we can do things together and have some fun. Because if you're not having fun in a volunteer association, you're missing the boat. One thing that's really stood out was the fact that we have these legacy projects. But one project you're going to see this evening is just phenomenal, just phenomenal. And we're going to be presenting it to folks here this evening. Nora and her team put this quilt together, and you'll see it. And please don't touch it, but look at it all you want, take pictures, but because it's still a very young quilt, and we've been told by the museum people that we have to be careful. Don't let people get their oils on it and so on like that. And we'll eventually try to find a way to cover it so it's going to look good for a long, long time, and we can move it around the center. So another thing we did this year was we reached out to news areas such as the Masthead News, such as Seaside FM, such as the CBC, and tried to get our name of our society out there and what the mandate of the society is, trying to get it out there and get people involved. And hopefully that will earn some fruit next year when people are being asked to do things. So that's great. Took a big plunge this year as far as hiring someone to make sure the projects are going forward and the right things are being done, and that was Karen Vernon, who we hired in March. So that took a little bit of time. It took her a couple of weeks to get her feet on the ground, but she took off, and she's now got a lot of the projects on the way, and we're hopeful that you'll see results hopefully by the summertime. And then we have the other projects that the company called Stitch is involved in. It's a digital museum, and that is just finishing phase 1 in that, and they're starting to phase 2, but there's going to be a lot more involvement in the next month getting phase 2 rocking and rolling, so that's good. And we did, as a result, I think, of more of the work of Reverend Sagar, the fact that Bob Chalk ended up speaking with the Lieutenant Governor at a presentation on April 2nd and talking about the Estes Atlantic and so on. And they're very supportive of the society, but he, as Bob always does, willingly offers his knowledge and expertise, and he certainly did us proud there. And we got notified sometime during the winter that the trail is now listed on the Nova Scotia website as the top 10 reasons to visit Halifax in 2024 under the category of the Halifax most stunning coastal hikes. There we are, we're on the map. So tourists will be coming along much more quickly, I think. We've already had one group come from all the way from Winnipeg to visit the center a bit early because we weren't quite open, but Bob met them and they saw the museum and all the things, and I think they left with smiles on their faces and so on. And we've just started, the gift center is now open, and we were going to have 42 people last Saturday come to the center on their British motorbikes, but unfortunately they canceled because they thought the weather at Terrence Bay wasn't very nice. And I said, I was down there, I thought it was fine. A little cool, no wind really, and no bugs, so I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, so they decided maybe they had some convertibles, I'm not sure, but they're going to reschedule for another sunny day. Anyway, we are going to be hosting a gift basket at the Route 333 Refugee Society down in Whites Lake Legion in June 8th. And hopefully people will attend that and take part of our 50-50 draw, which will help raise money for the Refugee Society, which, as a community member, the SS Atlantic should be contributing in any way they can as well. So in closing, I hope community members will form connections with the society, and the society will form connections with the community society next year, because we are going to be starting a big process, as you saw at the door, of remembering and reconnecting. It's a brochure that we're going to be using to help raise funds to offset the grants that we've received in advance that are going to do a variety of things in our community. So congratulations to those people who worked on those grants and got them up and running, and now the work will be going out to the community and go to businesses and seeking financial support. So thank you very much. I'm going to close that. Okay, I'm now going to ask our financial person to come up. Mahbooba Rahman is the treasurer that's coming up, but he emailed me and said that he can't make it at the beginning of the meeting, so I don't know when he's going to show up. He's doing some community somewhere else. So anyway, I'll leave you to it. Hamish, unfortunately, is stepping down from the board, but he's going to stay on as a bookkeeper for next year, which I'm very happy to hear, because he's
on a provisional basis.
Oh, on a provisional basis, provided somebody doesn't tell him he can't do it. Okay, I don't know if you want to sit
It's a
or
nice way of
stand.
saying I've been demoted from treasurer to
I
bookkeeper.
would not say demotion, but anyway.
Okay, did everybody pick up a copy of these financial statements at the front desk? Okay. I just want to give a little intro about the activities that we've been doing in the last year. Up to the end of 2022, we ran the museum and had some programming every year, and we used to go through about $50,000 a year. Then in 2023, we won 3 grants. One was several grants were for our anniversary 150, and we brought in about $100,000 on that, and we spent about $60,000. The other grant was from Heritage Canada. It's under their legacy program. We got $250,000, of which we have to match and raise another $250,000. And we're on our way to doing that, and that's what this brochure that Gordon showed you is all about. It's supposed to help. And the third one was another $250,000 grant from Digital Museums Canada, and this, we do not have to match that, and that was to develop a online educational sort of game based on the wreck of the SS Atlantic, and players will, and it's for all ages, will play the game and learn the history of the project as they do so. That particular project has not incurred revenue or expense in 2023, although there was work done on the project. Okay, so that's the background. There's a big change in our finances from 2022 to 2023. Okay, so that said, I usually talk about the statement of operations, which is the second page in your handout. And this is what we did during the year. It covers the 12 months. And in summary, we had total revenue of $127,000, and it's divided up into Anniversary 150 for $64,000, Legacy for $19,000, and the revenue for the museum of $44,000, a total of $127,000. And our expenses were $124,000, leaving us with a small surplus of $4,000. And does everybody follow that? If they want to. So within those expenses is the $64,000 that we spent on the Anniversary 150 and the $19,000 we spent on the Legacy project so far. It's just getting going. Any questions on that? Okay, so that's where we went last year. We raised $127,000, we spent $123,000, we had $4,000 surplus. So that takes us to the top page, which is called a balance sheet. And this is a snapshot in time of where we ended up on December 31st, 2023. And we had free cash of $29,600 is starting at the top. We had restricted cash of $60,000, which represents the two grants, money received but not spent. We still have to spend it. Then we had $7,000 worth of fixed assets. Under liabilities, we had $9,400 in accounts payable. That's expenses that we incurred last year but didn't pay until January of this year. And then we have this strange item called deferred revenue. That is the same as the restricted cash on the assets. It just means we've collected this money, but we haven't spent it. It was for those special purposes. Therefore, we have the obligation or liability to spend it this year. And so you will note that the assets total $101,000, and the liabilities and equity are also $101,000. That's why they call it the balance sheet. Okay? So the third page is Schedule 1. And I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but it's an analysis of the grant monies in and the expenditures out. So you can see that there's a column for Anniversary 150. You can see where we got all the money from, a total of $99,000. And down below, you can see how we spent it. in 2023. So these numbers also come forward to the income statement. Likewise, for the legacy, we received 45,000 and we spent 19,000, so we have 25,000. Oh, thanks, too late. What else? I think that's it. Are there any questions? Okay, can I have a motion from the floor to approve these financial statements for submission to the members? Thank you. Scott? And a second? Thank you. Shirley? All in favor? Aye. Done. Until next year, everybody. So Gordon, where are you? Okay.
Thank you very much, Hamish. You got me, I tested out the food, and I recommend it. So what I'm going to suggest is, since you've done so well, the teacher and me, why don't we take a break and get a coffee, tea, some food, and come back to your seat and talk to your neighbors. Then I can finish my sandwich. take a sandwich or a cookie or something and a little coffee or tea, and we'll start her up again. Point of information for those people who are involved in the live streaming here. If you call this number, 902-440-1922, and I'll... text. Sorry, if you text that number, I'll repeat the text number in a moment. And what we will need is your name, your phone number, and your email ID. Email address. You have ID. Anyway, so the number, if you have a pen or paper, work it together, 902-440-1922. If you would text your name, phone number, and your email, then John can include you with the live streaming going on here. Okay, well, welcome back, and hope you enjoyed the St. Timothy's Gratz selection of foods for us. Really appreciate that. The legacy projects that I mentioned in the chair report are moving along at different rates, and there's different projects involved there. So I'm going to ask Scott if he'd come up and explain to us where we are in those projects right now. So Scott, come on up.
Okay. I can only address the two monuments for the Village of Prospect and Lower Prospect at the moment. I have not really up to speed on where the legacy projects with the website is at the moment. That's strictly Karen Vernon's ballpark. We've hired her to sort of oversee the 150th anniversary legacy projects. I'm mostly the board liaison for the two monuments at Prospect and Lower Prospect. And at the moment, we have had one community meeting in Prospect, and Lynette Richards has come up with a new design for the monuments. She suggested that we take a boulder and split it and put one half in Prospect and the other half in Lower Prospect. And on the split surface would be a sandboat, which would be pointing towards the wreck, much like the Swiss Air 111 monuments. So at the moment, the people of Prospect suggested that the monument be moved from the Government Wharf area to the community park. So it'd be more visible, and they wouldn't have to mow around it. Because the park is the city's problem. And they also had a boulder that is actually in the park that they would like to see split in half and used for the two monuments. So as of yet, we've haven't had a community meeting with Lower Prospect yet. That's to be announced. And there will be a second meeting for both communities at a future date. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Also, we have another project that's from the Digital Museum of Canada, and that particular project is linking up with another company. It's called Stitch Company, and they are putting together a multimedia, that's the way I would call it, project. And I'll ask John to come up and talk to you about that project.
Hello. The DMC project is called, I believe, Lifeline, and it's in essence an interactive video experience. Some people call it a game. We haven't seen a prototype of it yet, so I don't know how you earn points or lose points, but in essence, through investigation, you learn elements of the SS Atlantic story. The people, this is funded by the federal government. The people who are doing the heavy lifting of the technology is Ontario-based, but one of their prime content providers is Ariella. That's sort of something that we'd like to try to do, is to engage locals as much as possible. Because in essence, it's a local story, and we're here to serve the locals. It's a 5-phase project. When it's finished, it's supposed to live not into eternity, but I don't know, 4 or 5, 10, no, it's not 10 years, that's the monuments, that's Scott's stuff. But a healthy number of years. So it's going to be around a while, and hopefully it will start roping in the younger crowd who like their technologies. It's a 5-phase project. They finished phase 1 very successfully. They're fully engaged in phase 2, which I believe is supposed to come in this year, right, Ariel? And then some of the other phases are going to take a little longer because you can't just push a button and you can't push a button yet and have technology do everything. So anyway, how's that?
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm going to do without John. He's my AI. Okay, but the next section is to deal with nominations for the Board of Directors, and before I get into that, I just want to repeat the texting number, if you have a pen or paper together. It's 902-440-1922. We need your name, your phone number, and your email. That way we can know if you're on our list of memberships. Also, I just want to repeat what's in the agenda regarding voting and so on. It says, according to the Society's bylaws, all current directors must resign. That's good for me, I can resign tonight. Between the AGM, that person may be replaced in the interim and ratified at the next AGM. The maximum number of directors is 15, which is to include 4 executive members. The new Board of Directors elected at this meeting will elect the next executive at their first meeting in June. So we're asking for people who are members, paid members, to be interested in voting. That's the time to do it. Now, in preparation for tonight's meeting, I checked with all the current directors, and I came up with a list of current directors who want to stay on next year, and you'll see them listed there on your page. John Corbett, Joan Duggan, Shirley Jollymore, Mubar, who's emailed me today saying he's at another community event. He'll be here later. Myself, Scott Bater, who just was up speaking, and Nora Straps and Walter Straps and Valda Kemp. And Valda Kemp lives in Lower Prospect. She's been one of the founding members of our society. She's very involved in the center, making sure that everybody has opportunity to put items for sale there that are local handicraft things, and she keeps track of that, so she's invaluable in that area. So I'd ask for, I guess, nominations, including the ones that we have here. So the nominations for the directors of 2024-25 require an election, which we're holding tonight with your little red card for voting. And you can either nominate people from the floor or over the phone or text and off the internet. So we're live streamed, so sometimes there's a bit of a delay between us getting notification that somebody wants to nominate somebody on the internet or by texting and so on. So bear with us as we get that organized.
Could you maybe speak to some of the needs
Well, Mabubar has agreed to stay on as treasurer, so he's taking over for Hamish, so that's a critical exchange that happened this year. So we're hoping Mabubar will continue with the board. Shirley is a vice chair, I guess part of the executive along with Mabubar, and myself. And I don't know of anybody else on quote the executive. And then on the directors themselves, we're going to be entering into a stage not so much of seeking out grants from the federal, provincial, HRM, and local supporting groups like, was it the Prospect Road area? What do they call themselves? I don't want to mess it up with the community center, so it's the PRAA or PPRA? PRRA. So they've been very generous in supporting the society over the years, including this year. So it's not so much grant writing or searching out grants, although we still want to maintain that thread going along. But there are people who are needed in the area of fundraising and connecting with the community, people who want to set up small to medium to big events and try and encourage people in the community to be connected to the SS Atlantic and for the SS Atlantic to connect with their community. So that's the type of people we're looking for, are people who are wanting to get out, go talk to people at the multi-cup or go to the community center or whatever, and just chat it up or have people in and work towards thinking of some fundraising ideas for this year coming, because that's where we're going to be needing the support. We have spent a while creating this beautiful brochure along with 2 letters, a previous letter or introductory letter and a follow-up letter. So those are at the front table with Nora and Joan. So those are that's the type of information that's going out soon to the corporate world, I guess you call it. Do you have any other people we thought we need, or you're okay? So John, have you picked up anybody on the texting, or nobody? Okay. I couldn't hear you. What was that? One other person. Okay. Okay, that being the case, I have John Corbett, who's agreed to stay on next year, Joan Duggan, Shirley Jollymore, Mabubar, Gordon Steeves, Scott, Nora Straps and Walt Straps, and Valda Camp. Are there other individuals who want to step up and be directors for next year, knowing that sort of what we're looking for? Yes, Helen?
Yeah, I'd be interested to help, because we don't have lots of words, and I think we gotta get a new lower prospect. And I like to rock things up, and we need to get marketing and social media, and there's a lot of events we can do.
Lovely. Exactly what we're looking for. That's great. So any other individuals who, it's not like a former association we had, we elected people who weren't at the meeting, but that's not right. Anyway. Sometimes it doesn't create the best environment. Okay, so Helen, and you're registered at the desk, right? So they know who you are. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Helen. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Are there any other individuals who would like to step up? We can go as high as 15. Am I allowed to nominate someone from the chair? I'd like to nominate Sheila Lamplugh. Shirley jumped on that pretty quick. Okay. Any further nominations or volunteers or anything? Darren, did you have your hand up? Okay. Okay, has seen no further names and nothing's come in on live stream. John, nothing's come in on texting, so I'm looking for a motion to accept those nominated and presented and volunteered to serve next year on the board? Moved by Scott, second by? Okay, Annie? Okay. Yep. And all those in favor saying aye? Aye. Contrary? Save your little red cards, please. I cut those out last night very carefully, and I'll use them next year if we get a cloudy, rainy, cold night for our next meeting. Okay, that being the case, I'm going to ask Nora to come up with, I'll help you. Is there someone else who can help? Maybe Scott, you're up here, will help. Or, oh, no, she's got somebody trained. Scott.
It's very delicate.
Yes, you're very delicate. That's right. Pictures are asked for. This beautiful work.
I have to say I am in awe of those who got up here and spoke and didn't have notes that they referred to constantly. I am not of that high quality public speaker, so I rely on my notes really strongly. The commemorative quilt is the first of the proposed art installations marking the 150th anniversary of the sinking of the SS Atlantic. With it, we are honoring service to others in time of disaster. More particularly, we are honoring women for their care and compassion 151 years ago, following the wreck along the rocky shores of Lower Prospect. These women were largely ignored in the aftermath of the tragedy. This quilt celebrates and acknowledges their service to others that has for far too long gone unrecognized. These women were the wives and daughters of the brave fishermen who faced frigid waters to save the lives of over 400 people. All those saved were men except for one child. So not only do we recognize the local women, but we also remember the women on board the Atlantic who were lost in this disaster. Not a single one of them was saved. The local women were there when they were needed, offering compassion and hospitality to the survivors. Warmth around the family stove, food, clothing, and kindness were offered to the survivors, and it is likely that many a homemade quilt or blanket would have been wrapped around the shoulders of shivering men. And so, as a result of community input and suggestions, a quilt was chosen as a way to recognize and acknowledge the tireless efforts of the women of Lower Prospect, Prospect, and Terrence Bay in the aftermath of the tragedy. The quilt, in general, quilts, have a long tradition of playing a special role in family events, and today they are often made to commemorate births, marriages, and other significant occasions. As well, there are hundreds of volunteers, mostly women, who come together to make and gift quilts to cancer patients, to the IWK locally, to nursing homes, and anyone within the community who turns 90. So we just have to get there, and then we get the quilt. Several of our artisans are among the many who are a part of this outreach of care, love, and concern for others. Another group of women is being recognized through the quilt as well. In our community, we have many women who daily answer the call and offer help, serving as first responders, as members of search and rescue teams, the Red Cross Society, medical caregivers, firefighters, military, and police. The Society is indebted to the local women who took up the challenge to design, create, and bring into being this commemorative quilt. They worked tirelessly with a single-mindedness of purpose to produce a work of art, and it wasn't a simple process. It involved much give and take, a lot of trial and error, doing and redoing, and one heck of a lot of measuring. From there, over many hours at home and many sleepless nights, those ideas were put into the physical reality of the quilt that we have here. A bond has been forged among these women, built on a common purpose. That bond has been extended even further connections made to the women of 151 years ago. The quilter's work honors all the groups of women who have been mentioned. These women who produced the quilt gave well over 400 hours of volunteer time to create this quilt. The central vignette is not meant to be a photographic depiction, but rather a stylized impression to highlight and conceptualize the events of April 1st, 1873. There's a woman in the foreground. She's not one woman, but stands as a representation of all the women who helped their survivors. Bordering the quilt, motifs were decided upon by the quilt artisans, which they felt would highlight the theme of women as first responders, both past and present. The next step for the Society is to appropriately display the quilt, taking care to protect it from UV light deterioration, but allowing for it to be viewed and appreciated. The quilt will find its home in the SS Atlantic Interpretive Center, but it is our hope as a society that it will make its way to other public spaces where the story of the Atlantic can be recognized as the important part of our local and national heritage that it is. And to conclude, I would like to say that we are very indebted to the men and women who in 2002 were responsible for bringing about the official opening of the SS Atlantic Heritage Interpretive Center and Park. Thank you to them and those who have over the years taken on the task and responsibility of keeping this story alive. It is a heritage the local community can be proud of. Thank you. Please. I would say that the vignette speaks for itself in terms of the depiction of the wreck. I would point out that the ribbon that is used in the wreck, as you see it, is at least 150 years old. It was something that I had in my possession that had particular meaning to our family, and it's an appropriate place to have it used as we see it here. As I mentioned, the woman in the foreground is all the women who helped when the rescue efforts were being made. I'll start at the top. Each of these motifs is double except for two. So maybe I'll start with the two that are not repeated. We have the compass rose, which is often shown depicted on maps, particularly nautical maps, so we felt that that was appropriate for the quilt. At the bottom, we have the quarter board, which is on display at the center. The quarter board, I didn't know this, but I have learned these things. Quarter board is used on a ship when it comes into port, so that if you had 50 ships along a pier, along the wharves, and you were to set out to go to New York on the SS Atlantic, you wouldn't know which one was your ship, except that they would have these quarter boards displayed so that you could see that's the one, that's the ship I have to get on. That was found several months after the disaster, after the wreck. Somebody picked it up, it ended up in somebody's shed, and then it was found and displayed over, I don't have the lady's name here, but it was displayed over her fireplace for about 40 years, and as she got older, she decided it was best that it be taken over to the center, and it was donated to the center. It is there in the center. To my mind, it is the most amazing thing because it has not been fixed in any way, it hasn't been repainted, and it's as, I would say, it's as vibrant as it was the day that the ship went down. It's a totally amazing artifact. So that's the quarter board down here. Nova Scotia Strong, it was felt that it was important to highlight the aftermath of the mass killings in 2020. This symbol became a hallmark of people pulling together and making the best of a very difficult situation. I think it's really important to notice that Nova Scotia tartan is a very important part of that symbol, and the first Nova Scotia tartan was produced at Star of the Sea Weavers in, I think, 1953 was when they first went into production. So it has a particular affiliation to our community. White Star, it was the White Star line, so we felt it was appropriate that we had a motif to recognize that. The SS Atlantic was a single four-bladed propeller ship, and that's what this propeller represents. We wanted to acknowledge first responders, often who are the Red Cross, so we have the Red Cross depicted. 233 of the just fewer than 1,000 passengers on the SS Atlantic were of Irish heritage. Many of them were picked up after the ship left Liverpool. It went to Cove and picked up many Irish people immigrating to the New World, shall we say, or to the United States. So the Celtic knot represents that Irish heritage. It also represents the Irish heritage of all the I should say not all, but most of the fishermen who were part of the rescue and their families. They were virtually all Irish heritage. Ship's bell. Every ship has a bell. It marks the change of the watch and so on. And it's an integral part of life, or it was an integral part of life on the ship. This is a quilt, but we felt that we wanted to depict a quilt in and of itself, and this pattern is the what is it? Log cabin. It is the log cabin quilt pattern, and we have the red. It was chosen as the center because the log cabin pattern supposedly the central part is the family and the home, so that's why that's there. We have here, down here, we have a seine boat, and Bob Chalk would be happy that I'm saying a seine boat. We don't call it a dory, it's a seine boat. It would have been used by the rescuers to do what they could to rescue, and then also after the fact to retrieve some of the bodies and so on too. We have here the heart and anchor. The people were people of faith, and we felt that we wanted to acknowledge that in terms of stability and steadfastness, and the anchor and the heart represent that. Do I have it all? Yeah, okay, that's it. I thought I was going to be able to stick to this.
What amazes me is that Nora did that without looking at her notes. So she lied to us. What a wonderful memory there. And I know there was measurements and measurements and measurements, but there was a lot of fun. And
The women were fantastic. I can't tell you the fun that we had and problem solving, and it was just, they were a great group of women.
well, that's great. Yes, dear. Hi.
I'm here with Pam Lovelace.
Yes, I know. I saw you were having competing events. You were across the road at the community center. Yeah.
But we found you were fruit. Pam just had a great idea, and I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea.
I can't grow hair. Nice try, Pam.
We should bring it to City Hall. I'd like to have that at City Hall.
Oh, yeah.
The issue at this point is that it has to be protected. It has to be protected from hands, and it would be protected
From the light.
I'm hoping within the next 2 months that we will have that facility to take it to other places.
Wonderful. We did have a room where it
Oh,
would be protected.
perfect. That would be great. Yeah. I
Well, HRM has been very supportive of our society, and it would be very appropriate, I think, in my opinion, 1 out of 15, but my opinion would be to display this so that the public can see it. But as we pointed out, so much effort and care has been gone in so far. We have to make sure it's protected from an archival type of thing. So when we figure that out, we'll certainly have it moving around. Yes, dear.
Also, we're creating a series of website pages in collaboration with Nora and the Cook Group.
Yep.
So those are being worked on as we speak. And each of the women who created the squares and some of the elements in the main panel will be featured. When you click on the square, you'll hear the women talking about the meaning behind the square and what kind of techniques they used. And there's also going to be a ton of other photographs, video footage of the process, and background information. So that's going to be on where right now it's called navigatingfuturesprojects.com, where some of the other projects that have been finished so far are. We may change the name because we're including other projects now. So we'll do that next week.
Well, we're very lucky in the Prospect, Terrence Bay, Lower Prospect areas and surrounding to have so many creative individuals like yourself, dear, who have contributed a couple, 3 years at least, work into getting a lot of this done in a digital manner so that we can put it together. And this is, I call this the tip of our iceberg, because this is at the beginning of 3 more legacy projects and the Digital Museum of Canada. So if you put all that together, within about 2 or 3 years, we're going to have a phenomenal individual. And by the way, we still need a sign that says Terrence Bay, Lower Prospect on the 333 highway. Just getting my plug in. I don't know why it's, what? Pam is taking notes. Pam, when you finish taking notes, give it to Patty, okay? Yes, dear.
Also, anyone, I'm the creative director for the
DM.
Museums Canada project, so if anyone or the board or anyone in the community would like to know more about it, I'd be happy to come and show some visuals or talk to the board.
That'd be great.
There's a lot of work that's already been 2 years of work that's gone into it so far. So, yeah, we're working on it. Also, Bob Chalk is involved. There's a number of local creative people involved. We're hoping to work with some of the cultures as well. So the whole point is to feature the artwork of the local people in the community.
Yep.
And for them to get paid for that work.
Yep. It's been not for me, because I just joined this year, but it's been a bit of a frustration, I think, for previous directors and artists and so on, because we sort of get started on something and then it falls apart and then we have to start again. Like, for example, we're going back to the communities in Prospect and Lower Prospect to ask them, what do you want? It's been 3 years since we had this discussion with them. Things have changed in the world and they may have different ideas of what they want to do. So I like it, the fact that our society is open enough to say, okay, we're not going to go with what we planned 3 years ago. We'll start and do something new that will connect with the community. And as I said, I'm trying to connect with the communities that the SS Atlantic is found within. So let's have a great year coming up. And I'm looking around to see if Shirley would give us an adjournment, a motion to adjourn. Or? Oh, happy to. There you go. It's safe. You can go home now on the roads, right? So, what's that? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. And when we adjourn, everybody has to go back and have a bit more tea, coffee, more social time, and eat. Thank you very much for coming out this evening. Appreciate your visits.